Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most overpowered Rafa build in Borderlands 4. This can clear through any of the Ultimate Vault Hunter 6 content in the game, and it'll actually be very powerful into the future content as it releases. Now, the thing here is there's actually a lot of gear that makes this powerful, but we can actually do some pretty crazy damage output at the very start of the game, and this is because Rafa's red skill tree is just so powerful. We'll be combining some other abilities here and helping you take down Bloom Reaper the Invincible really quickly. The best part of this build, it comes in line at level 6 with Bullet Buddy Deluxe, and from a recent update, Soltado does double our overdrive benefits. So you can get over 600% gun damage with things like Temerario here, getting a +5 from class mod means we get plus 10% gun damage per second, and since this is an overdrive skill, when we kill an enemy, it increases all of our overdrive bonuses by 150%, and this all stacks together very well. We actually will help it with the gun handling decreases that we get from Temerario from going into the blue skill tree, and I think this is the most optimal, is that we also increase our fire rate. Now, some of the newest and most powerful weapons that got updated, being the Dark Beast here, you can actually get a fire or a corrosive or shock or a cryo, really any elemental damage roll on this, but we want to get one that has the Jacob's License accessory, and this is one you saw there during the combat with the shotgun underbarrel, was actually pretty crazy. And then the bod, obviously the bod, with a class mod like the Devastating Dancer, making this extremely powerful. Now, as for level 1 through 15, I like City here if you're in the early game. That 5% gun damage is nice. However, later on, Deft Hands is way better. Fire rate just means that we can get our damage out with infinite bullets. Now, our best augment is Bullet Buddy Deluxe. Basically, whenever we activate our action skill, we activate it again, and we get infinite ammo, which is crazy. And what's crazy about this is it also makes our Peacebreaker cannons do bonus fire damage and shoots exploding bullets. But once we get down here, the next best choice to go with is the Herga here. So whenever we critically hit an enemy, we get our action skill duration increased. This means that we can stay in our Peacebreaker cannons form a lot longer. We just got to be constantly critting an enemy. It'll get 15% back, but it has a cooldown of 4 seconds, which is roughly around the same amount of time. Now, Resilience, yeah, is actually kind of interesting here because being an overdrive skill, it can actually scale up a lot from Soltado there. So that can be fun. It does have a cap on how much damage reduction you get. And I think it's actually better for us to take Ale Valiente here. So Rafa deals increased damage with all sources. The fuller Rafa shields are. When Rafa shields are at max capacity, double the bonus. This is great with things like the Watts for Dinner and many others that we can get in this game. And we'll take 2 points of Maestro for the increased skill damage, which is going to increase our Peacebreaker cannons. After this, we want to come down to our right-hand skill tree. So we can, at this point, keep the Bullet Buddy Deluxe on. You don't have to take any of the other options, but we are going to go with the Barrage here, because the Everdrive actually doesn't benefit us since we're going to keep our overdrive benefits during our entire action skill because of the Dancer class mod. So all of our points into Barrage here will give us increased splash damage while overdrive is active, and that does scale as well. Next, we're going to take Temerario here. We get plus 5% gun damage and minus 5% handling per second while in our overdrive. So if you want to see your gun damage increase up to 600% bonus, you can check it by going into your character skill menu whenever you're fighting, but you have to have your action skill active for this to work. So it will scale up over time, further increase our damage, which is pretty insane when you take into effect like the Herga, which keeps us in this even longer, and then the Dancer class mob. Now, once we get down here, we're going to take the Volatile Hollow Points for our Capstone here, which will replace our Peacebreaker cannons with rockets, dealing splash damage, which, again, Barrage will increase that over time. And we're going to take 1 point into Soltado. Now, if you want to have the class mod that gives you 1 point into it as well, because this previously didn't stack, now it does. It's absurd. Then we're going to go over to the blue skill tree. So the Thrill is really good. This is another one we want to get rolls into because it will increase the fire rate and further increase while overdrive is active, and it's an overdrive skill, meaning that we're going to get increased fire rate over time. It's actually kind of nuts. After this is actually not that many great choices for us. The best one would be to take Las Haras here because this will allow us to regenerate ammo. Pretty crazy on actually some weapons because this, well, we don't have our Bullet Buddy Deluxe up, keeps letting us fire. This is also great on the Golden God shotgun because this will allow you to keep firing that one pretty much infinitely. It's actually quite overpowered. This will then take us down to Al Centro overdrive skill, increasing our gun damage per second. It's only 5% per second, but that's enough to keep up with Temerario quite a bit. And then we're actually going to get a little bit more once we come down over here. I used to like to take Jacques and Mate here, but I think it's better to take La Garza, which will give us even further increased gun handling and action skill handling when our overdrive is active. And this is an overdrive skill, so this is another one that will increase as we continue to take out enemies. And then Deadline here, overdrive skill, Rafa increase fire rate and increase reload speed while overdrive is active. We only got 3 points to put into this, but as the level cap increases, we actually can then come down to perma last. That'll be insane once that does happen. So yeah, I see this becoming extremely powerful. Now, for our class mod, the Dancer is going to be one of our best choices. I would recommend getting one with 5 points into Temerario and 1 into Soltado, and then maybe just 1 into the Thrill, as the increasing gun damage is really nice. You can get a variety of different rolls on this one and bonus kinetic damage and gave a bit of health regeneration, but I do think the best choice is to go with this one here. And even at this one here, it didn't have as much Temerario. This will give us a very high amount of damage. Watts for dinner gives us 25% bonus shock damage when we have an overshield, and it's rocks or overshields that we can grab. I'd rather have one with Siphon on it because that's just going to give you a bit more survivability, which I think matters on this build. And for our enhancement, there's actually two we want to use if we're fighting Bloom Reaper. For general purposes, I really like the bounce pass. Increasing Jacob's ricochets by 1 is absurd. We want to try and get critical hits as much as possible, and that extra bouncing around is actually pretty nuts. My other recommendation is to then take the Steward one, which will give us the Gatherer one, which will give us a 1% fire rate increase per bullet fire to 50% fire rate, which resets on reload. We don't have to worry about reloading, so we can use the Bod or the Dark Beast here, which gives this, they're both dataless weapons. This will give a 50% fire rate increase, which is insane because we have infinite ammo. This is actually one of the best combinations here. And then on reload, guns with dataless licensed park get 25% damage based on the amount of spare ammo for the currently equipped gun. You can actually play around with this before you go into your overdrive to make this even more impactful. And then we're also going to roll with, I like the critical hit knife just because Jacob's bounce passes off of Dark Beast is actually kind of crazy for one big reason. These bullets actually will pierce enemies without having to have high caliber. Normally you can take high caliber, bullets will pierce, and if you hit one enemy and pierce it in a second, they both have ricochets off of them, which is insane damage. So yeah, this is still really going to be one of the best. You could go like Disc Jockey, the Jet Setter new weapon, or Scully, but I still think critical hit knife works very well in this build. And I like speed. We got to go fast, take the triple bypass with the speed, feel like Sonic. I also like the Leech, giving a 30% lifesteal. Basically makes us unkillable at this point. And you can swap out for the Timekeeper's new shield if you like using that. With the triple bypass, you're basically unkillable at that point with a high amount of damage, and having 30% lifesteal is kind of crazy. So, and what's crazy with the triple bypass is every 10 seconds, yeah, you basically have this infinitely. As for weapons, the Dark Beast is just the best choice, honestly. It got such a massive buff. There's many different ways you can get rolls on it. If you want to use this one here, you can take the Quicksilver enhancement, which will give us critical hits whenever we're overheating. Don't fully recommend doing that. You can get really lucky here. I got this one here, which has Cryo and Jacob's License accessory on it. Pretty crazy. It's not easy to find that, but that can be a very powerful one. I also just like, I think this is my favorite one, is the critical hits from the Jacobs and the shotgun underbarrel, because they'll shoot out shotgun pellets and it's pretty powerful, honestly. And also the Bod, as mentioned, is one of the craziest weapon in the game, I should clarify. Very overpowered. Ceramic Bod in particular. Really easy to farm right now. They boosted the drop rates for it. The complex route also works well, especially if you can get like Ripper and Jacobs or something like that. Fire damage is pretty effective. I also want to recommend the Rainbow Vomit. This is really good, especially because it's the Jacobs part on it, or it's a Jacobs weapon. I also like the TK's Wave too, because this is a very powerful weapon. The best roll would be to have the Ripper one and Jacobs so that you can fire this up and have it automatic and fire really quickly. Bonnie and Clyde also works really well. You start with the shotgun, switch to the assault rifle, crazy damage. The Sweet Embrace and the Kickballer are two other really powerful weapons that we can go with. And even something like the Queen's Rest is kind of nice as well. I also like the Wombo combo just for general purposes or vile bounties, but the Dark Beast's boost to it actually make it great for vile bounties as well. Now, ideal enhancements would actually be firmware would actually be to get 3 Deadeye here, which give you 20 additional critical hit damage, which is actually kind of absurd because we're trying to get as many crits as possible. And then 2 high caliber. Alternatively, if you're not using Dark Beast, you can take 3 high caliber and 2 Deadeye. And for our specializations, I would recommend having at all times now with caffeine. This is really good because it's going to boost up the amount of times that you can get into your overdrive, which is really the main point of this. We also have the best defense whenever health is full, increased damage dealt. The Riddle You This plus 50% gun damage, also really good. And I Am a Gun, which will take our action skill damage, or give us our action skill damage from gun damage boost. So if we have a 100% gun damage increase, this gives 50% of it. Why this is crazy? Temerario. We get it very, very high. Yeah, so do you want to get your gun damage up to a 571.9% increase, total damage dealt up 81%, skill damage 300%, and your melee damage also quite high? Well, that's because whenever we're fighting, we're going to want to go into our overdrive at the start. Take out an enemy as quickly as possible, because when you kill an enemy, it's going to give you that boost. You can also see I'm shooting really fast because I have the that dataless enhancement here. Now, this boss is resistant to corrosive, and I'm still cooking him with this. I'd probably be in a better place if I took out a different one. That's the only downside, is you have to get a different type of elemental damage if you want to do stuff against things that are resistant to corrosive. But thankfully, there's not a lot. And yeah, corrosive damage is good in a lot of situations, actually. But I'd recommend grabbing a Dark Beast with a fire type as well. You can get your gun damage up past 600% as well with a specific setup of items as well. I don't really have optimal rolls on a lot of my gear, but you can still see that's more than enough. And yeah, you can get the damage doing some pretty insane things. Here, this boss is not weak to corrosive damage. You can see we're absolutely cooking him. If he wasn't weak to fire damage, we'd also switch to the fire version of this and just blast away, because the damage from this weapon is absurd, especially on this setup. It shreds through Bloom Reaper. It does it all. It's extremely powerful. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if this video is useful, and I hope you guys all have an amazing day.